All right, today we're going to solve a bit of a seafood mystery. We are diving deep into the world of a parasite that's surprisingly common, something you could literally find on your plate. It's a nematode called Pseudoterranova. So picture this. You're enjoying some incredible sushi or maybe some fresh ceviche, and all of a sudden you feel this weird, kind of wriggling or tickling sensation in the back of your throat. It's a thing. People call it tingling throat syndrome. And yeah, it can be pretty alarming. You might think, oh, was that a piece of ginger? But what if it wasn't? Well, that exact unsettling feeling is what this explainer is all about. It's often the very first clue that you've had a close encounter with a really fascinating and pretty complex marine parasite. And here is our culprit. More often than not, the source of that weird sensation is a larval nematode from the genus Pseudoterranova. And because of its wild life cycle, it gets a couple of common nicknames: the sealworm, or if you find it in a certain fish, the codworm. So what is this thing exactly? Let's get into the biology for a second. It's a metazoan endoparasite. Okay, let's break that down. Metazoan just means it's a complex, multicellular animal, with tissues and organs. It's not a single-celled protozoan, like something you might get from drinking bad water. And endoparasite means it lives its life inside other animals. So where did this worm even get its name? And how do scientists tell all its different family members apart? The story is actually really cool, and it's tied to the heroic age of polar exploration. Okay, the history of its name is just fascinating. Pseudoterranova means false Terra Nova. The original genus Terranova was named by the ship's surgeon on Captain Robert Falcon Scott's famous and tragic Antarctic expedition. Get this, while Scott was making his trek to the South Pole, the surgeon was on the ship dissecting fish, and he discovered a related worm. He named it after their ship, the Terra Nova. Our seal worm was found later, and it was similar, but different enough to get the name Pseudoterranova. And we're not just talking about one single type of worm here. What scientists used to think was just one species is now known to be a species complex. Think of it like a big family with at least 8 distinct genetic types. And each one has its favorite part of the ocean and its favorite marine mammal host. So, for example, an infection in Japan is probably P. azarazi, but over in Europe, you're more likely dealing with P. decipiens. And knowing this is absolutely crucial for tracking where outbreaks are coming from. So this brings us to the big question. How on earth does a parasite that lives in seals end up in the fish that's on our plate? The answer is this incredible multi-stage journey all the way through the marine food web. Okay, the whole cycle kicks off with what's called the definitive host, a seal or a sea lion. Adult worms are just hanging out in the seal's stomach, producing thousands and thousands of eggs that get passed into the ocean. Those eggs hatch, and then the tiny larvae get eaten by their first intermediate host, little crustaceans crawling around on the seafloor. But the journey doesn't stop there. A fish comes along and eats that infected crustacean. The worm larvae then drill right through the fish's gut and embed themselves in the muscle. Yep, the exact part we like to eat. Then, as bigger fish eat smaller fish, these larvae just start to build up. It's called trophic accumulation. And finally, the cycle completes when a seal eats a heavily infected fish. The larvae grow into adults in its stomach, and the whole thing starts all over again. Now, humans are, of course, not seals. So when we eat raw or undercooked fish that has these larvae, we become an accidental host. A dead-end host, really. The parasite can't finish its life cycle inside of us, but it can definitely cause some problems on its way out. So what happens to us then? Well, there are 4 main ways this can go. The most common are that tingling throat, where you just cough the worm up, and the gastric form, which causes this sharp, prickling stomach pain within hours of your meal. Less common is the intestinal form, which can actually feel a lot like appendicitis. And then there's the super rare ectopic form, where the worm literally gets lost and wanders out into the abdominal cavity. Now, you might have heard of a cousin of this parasite called Anisakis. It's really important to know they are not the same thing. Anisakis is way more aggressive. It loves to burrow deep into your stomach wall and cause intense pain. Pseudoterranova, on the other hand, is generally much less invasive, and it's very, very common for it to be expelled spontaneously, which is exactly why that tingling throat feeling is such a classic sign of this specific worm. So how do doctors even confirm you've got one of these? Well, the diagnosis is usually made by physically finding the worm. Either the patient coughs it up or it's spotted during an endoscopy. Once it's removed, labs can identify it. And the key feature is right here. See that little forward-pointing pouch the arrow is pointing to? That's called the intestinal cecum, and it's the dead giveaway for the Pseudoterranova genus. Okay, I know this all sounds a bit creepy, but the really good news is that an infection is 100% preventable. And that brings us to the final part of our mystery: how to enjoy your seafood safely. So why does this all matter so much right now? Well, let's take a place like the Netherlands as a case study. Decades ago, they completely solved their local herringworm problem by making freezing mandatory. But now, they're a huge seafood importer, so they're facing brand new risks. The global craze for sushi, plus a consumer desire for fresh, not frozen fish, means that worms from all over the world can end up on the market, totally bypassing those old-school controls. So here's the key takeaway, the most important part. Prevention is simple. If you cook your fish to 63 degrees Celsius, that's 145 Fahrenheit, you'll kill the parasite. Dead. If you're going to eat it raw, it has to be properly frozen first. The rule for a home freezer is at least 7 days at -20 Celsius, which is -4 Fahrenheit. And please remember this: marinades, salt cures, and cold smoking are not reliable ways to kill these worms. And looking ahead, there's an even bigger picture to think about. Researchers are looking at this from what they call a One Health perspective. Think about it. Our efforts to conserve seal populations have been successful, which is great. But that, combined with warming ocean waters that might be changing where fish live, could actually mean we see more parasites in the fish we eat. It's this incredible link between marine ecology, climate change, and our own health. The research for this entire explainer was compiled using a Gemini deep search. If you want to dive even deeper into any of the studies or topics we talked about today, you can find a complete list of all the sources in the Notebook LM document that we've linked below. So, what did you think about the great sealworm mystery? Is this going to change how you look at your next sushi dinner? Let us know what you think down in the comments. And hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe for more explainers like this one. Thanks for watching.